Welcome back to the 700 Club. The U.S. is being hammered by record-breaking heat this 4th of July. It's so hot, some areas have canceled holiday fireworks. And bone-dry conditions are raising more concerns about wildfires. Ephraim Graham has more.
In a steamy South Florida, workers were still preparing to celebrate the 4th of July with fireworks. But the sun's blaze has canceled those displays in parts of Alabama, Texas, and Arizona.
Please do not purchase, do not sell, and do not use fireworks.
New Mexico's governor urges ordinary citizens not to play with fireworks, with wildfires like this monster still burning near Los Alamos.
It's like an oven out here, seriously.
Weekend temperatures topped 100 degrees in Phoenix and parts of California, where many found comfort here at the beach. There are misting stations at this rib festival just outside Chicago. Still, some festival goers had to be treated for heat-related illnesses. 94 degrees felt more like 102.
Just not used to this type of humidity, so we've taken care of them. They're fine as of right now.
The heat is keeping this emergency team in Oklahoma busy. They answered more than a dozen calls in one day.
It can affect people of all ages, and it doesn't have to, there's really no bounds as to what it is they're doing outside.
But outside in Washington State, they're celebrating the summer's hottest holiday on skis.
We've seen some bikinis, a lot of board shorts, a lot of tank tops and sunglasses, and people are having a great time.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Amazing. As Americans celebrate Independence Day, it's easy to forget the roots of an idea like liberty. But for our founders, freedom only came from the God of liberty. Paul Strand reports on how crucial this idea was to America's revolution.
Sad fact of history, Christians fleeing the old world to practice their own religion often turned right around and persecuted fellow Americans from other denominations. They wanted theirs to be the recognized state church, ruling over all others. But watching that persecution outraged future leaders like James Madison.
As late as the early 1770s, you have Baptist preachers who are being thrown in jail for illegal preaching in Virginia. And James Madison, as a young man, watches this going on, and he thinks it's despicable.
Thomas Kidd writes, in God of Liberty, these future revolutionary leaders began to see religious liberty, indeed liberty itself, as a basic God-given right for all, and defending it as a crucial duty to the God who created them all and created them free.
People like Jefferson and Madison make common cause with these evangelicals, especially Baptists, on the issue of religious liberty.
Then when England began to push the colonies around, the colonists worried it would first take their economic freedom, but then more importantly, their religious freedom. They'd demonstrate against taxes, but for liberty, they'd be willing to fight and die in a revolution. Rod Gregg, author of Forged in Faith.
Taxes were sort of the spark that ignited it, but the issue was far greater than whether you had to pay more taxes or not.
They believed that the attack on their economic rights was actually a precursor to an attack on their religious rights. And they believed that religious liberty was the most precious liberty, and that if they didn't act in 1775 and 76, that ultimately they would lose all their rights.
Americans at the time believed in higher law, that God's law was over everything, over man's law.
Gregg says Christian Americans believed England was going against God and his law in crushing their God-given rights.
They believed that their first obligation was to God, and that if a government tried to intrude on that, that gave them the right, the liberty to revolt against that government.
In fact, they saw it as their duty to God.
Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. This was a favorite motto of Jefferson and also of many evangelicals.
The men who fought the battles of the Revolution and endured harsh winters in places like here in Valley Forge weren't just fighting for their rights and for concepts like freedom and liberty. They were fighting for someone. Of course, their fellow Americans, but also the God of liberty. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Valley Forge, Pennsylvania.